Welcome to another edition of the Propaganda Show. This is Chris Sarda. You can find me at Chris Sarda on Twitter, and you can find the writing and the website version of the Propaganda Show at notpartofyourscene.com. So today, it's just going to be me. I'm going to start doing some more music primers for new music and stuff like that. Today we're going to do a metal primer. In the show notes, you will find a link to the primer for the metal releases coming out on May 11th. So you can go check that out, and you could see basically what I'm going to talk about here today, some of the stuff that's coming out. Now there's a wide range of stuff coming out, different kinds of metal. I know that people that listen may like one particular thing, but this is sort of your way, at least in my opinion, to just see what's going on in general. And then, you don't have to listen to things that you don't like or that you won't like from the beginning. Just as a full disclosure, I'll be telling you whether I like the song and the video that I heard and whether it's inspired me to actually go and listen to more music from the band or put the album on a playlist. So let's get started. I should also point out that I can add other things, when I see stuff on Bandcamp or some of the smaller Bandcamp labels when they decide, that something's releasing. But for the most part, where I start with and where I try to start adding videos to the YouTube playlist comes from the PRP. That's what I've always called it. I know some people call it the perp. No one's really I've never really heard an interview or anyone talk about the website, but I call it the PRP.com. They have the writers there actually keep a pretty good release schedule, which is cool for lots of metal and hard rock. And if you look at the 5/11 releases, you'll also see some like reissues from Immortal. I don't really cover those, although I might. There was a rarities collection, and then some more new metal stuff like Orgy that I just skip over. Maybe sometimes I'll talk about it, but not today. So first off, I actually listened to two videos from Abraham. Their album, Look, Here Comes the Dark, comes out this Friday, May 11th. The two songs I heard were actually very different, so it's interesting to have, or it's good in the case of this band and this release, to have heard the two different songs. The first one had a real post-metal feel, with buried vocals. It was called Wonderful World. This is out on Pelagic Records, by the way. And, so basically what this is it's going to be a concept album. It's going to be on either the 4 LPs or a double CD. And when you're listening to the video in the playlist, and if you look in the information about the individual songs, it looked like they were both from this album, but it was a little bit hard to tell. You'll see like a semi-long write-up of the 4 phases of the concept album. So when I know that, I know I'm not listening to necessarily a single. So, I try to keep that in mind, that there's a concept and this is some piece of the puzzle to that full concept. Really, you should do that with every album, even when it's not a concept album, but you need to lean a little more towards it. So Wonderful World was a very post-metal sounding. The vocals were buried, and it was good, but it sort of mixed into the background very easy. And, if this was just, there's another band on here that did the same, but if this was just, a random song I heard, I may not have remembered it. And then, as a contrast to that, I listened to the song Wind. It was a much longer form song. Had a good build-up. The build-up might have been too long, but I don't know where the song was going on the next track, for example. But I did like it. The video was interesting. A series of stills, some druid-looking guy, in the cold. There's a section of the album that I don't have it in front of me. I think it was called Anthropomorphine, but it's, it's following like the end of the world or something like that. Some very typical metal kind of thing to do. So the video was pretty cool looking, even though it was more a series of stills than, this great, directorial motion picture or anything like that. And then the song did come in and go, slow and heavy a little bit. It had that 8-minute intro feel to it, I'll have to say, but just hearing the different sounds of these two songs sort of makes me give it the thumb up for something to listen to on Friday or maybe, when I'm busy at work and I can just sort of listen to it in earphones, while I'm working on the computer or something like that. Just because it does look like it's a little bit long and it appears to have these phases. So Abraham's Look Here Comes the Dark the two songs I heard gets not a thumbs up as if it's a review, but gets a thumbs up as if I'm going to listen to it when it comes out. It's an album that I'm thinking about and will probably put on my list of things to listen to for these new releases. The next song on the playlist is a band called Ecstatic Vision, and the name of their new album is Under the Influence, and the song that I listened to and that's on the playlist is called Troublemaker, and this album is being released by Heavy Psych. And so, I really like everything that Heavy Psych puts out, to be honest, but I have the same problem with it all, and I think I can do that with the record label Writing Easy too. So this kind of music, if you like it, then you like it, and I actually love that heavy psychedelic sound. My problem with both these record companies is that it seems like all the songs they released are short form, where this music really feels, in my opinion, to be something that needs to be developed over longer than a 4-minute song. So Ecstatic Vision, this song Troublemaker was cool. It had a real cool retro video that's sort of typical of the genre, but still a fun thing to watch and listen to. But 4 minutes just didn't feel right. And, and for that reason, despite the song being cool and there being a great solo in it, I gave it sort of a middle of the board, whether I'm actually going to listen to this album when it comes out on Friday or over the weekend. I might, sometimes I get inspired and, I find out that there's some, I just decide I'm going to listen to all Czech black metal or something, and I put a bunch of stuff on my to listen playlist, and that's when an album like Under the Influence will not get put on. But then if I don't, or if I don't decide I'm going to listen to all the best grindcore of the last 25 years or something like that, then I go, I need an album. I'll put Ecstatic Vision. But it's right in the middle there. It's not something that I'm not going to listen to. But a lot of these bands, they sound the same to me when it's only a 4-minute song, where when something's like fully developed, 8, 9, 10, 40, minutes or something like that, then, I can get into it more, even though it takes me longer to do it. And I've listened to enough stuff now over the years where I can know that whether I'm going to like it, I might not know that I'm going to love it, but I can know if I'm going to like it, and I need to listen to it more to get more excited by it. So Static Vision, Under the Influence, comes out this Friday the 11th, and I've given it a sort of middle of the road whether I'll listen to the full album based on listening to this song that Heavy Psych put on their YouTube page. So the next band, excuse me, is called Follow the Cypher, Valkyria, and so it's got that. It's out on Relapse. It comes out on the 11th, like everything I'm talking about here. It's one of those bands got that power metal, melodic power metal, female vocals, something that as an American, I just go, oh, that's going to be popular in Europe. And for most of the song, it was like that. I would call it power metal, essentially. Very melodic. And then somewhere in the middle, they did have non-clean vocals. But that just gave the song, it didn't give the song like a death metal feel, or it didn't give the song like a old school thrash feel. It gave the song a new metal feel. And for that reason, Follow the Cypher, and their self-titled album will probably not be listened to me on Friday. I would probably find something else to listen to. It's just not my thing. Although, if I were Relapse, I'd be finding these bands because the Europeans seem to love this stuff. But it's just not for me, and I'll probably skip it. So another song, the next one I listened to is a band called From Beyond. The name of their album that comes out on the 11th is The Band From Beyond. And it is from Candlelight Records, and it is the name of the song I listened to is Slip. So the same way that I said that a song earlier sort of fade into the background, Slip did fade into the background. And for that reason, and I have these notes, and I'm ready to take notes, and I'm listening pretty intently, but I didn't really have anything to say or think about it. Of course, there's a chance that the song that I picked wasn't the right song, or it has its place in the album. That happens a lot. The Perfect Circle album was like that, for example. I didn't like the songs when they were released, but when I heard the album, I was like, oh, it sort of fits, even though it's not what I expected. So this one, I didn't have anything to say. I just wrote, I wrote pretty typical. So I probably won't be listening to this. Although that doesn't mean that if it, more of these songs or doesn't appear in my lap, or if they tour, I tend to listen to bands that tour through here through Vegas a lot more. So it doesn't mean I'll never listen to them, but the song Slip did fade into the background for me a bit. So next here is a split album by Ill Bill and Ghoul, which is cool because Ill Bill is a rapper and Ghoul is that sort of thrash, sort of a thrash grindy band who are pretty good, although they've never like risen to the top. And for me, as far as things that are like very necessary to listen to, but it is still. Well, the first cool thing is that there's a split album, and it's with a cool rapper who I'm not super familiar, and then Ghoul, this thrash grindcore band, basically, is the way I'd put them. So that's just a cool thing to do, and it's way better than for Ghoul and Ill Bill to have made like 3 songs together or something, because we like to keep for the most part, with a few exceptions, I think in general it's better to keep our hip hop separate from our metal and hard rock, but there's some obvious exceptions to that. So the Ill Bill, I listened to it once. It seemed like it had good rhymes. It sounded cool for my first listen. There was a feature on there. He was also a good rapper, but it was the first time I heard it, and I get how. This is a heavy metal primer for 511, and I'm talking about hip hop. So I get how maybe someone wouldn't want to buy this split. But then there's more and more people out there that are, I guess, like me, and a lot of you guys listening. If you're listening to this podcast, you know that we'll talk about indie rock or hip hop too, just as much. So there's a lot of people out there like me that actually think it's a cool idea, and we like both forms of music. But if you only like one, then this album's probably going to be too expensive for you. I did give it a thumbs up because the Ghoul song that I listened to, Splattered Thrash 2, Thrash Damage, sort of telling you what genre they believe they are right there, was also a very cool song, even if it was sort of typical, but it was fun to listen to for me. So I'll put this on, just have that mix of hip-hop and metal while I work or while I'm doing stuff around the house. So I got two more, and the next two are in the death metal category, and it'll allow me to sort of talk about slams and groovy death metal and something that's more melodic and stuff. So basically the next two, I probably really like the next two songs because I'm about to go to Las Vegas Death Fest this weekend. I go to it, but it's, here in Las Vegas. So it's really, I go to the same club or bar I go to, at least once or twice a month to see shows. But, so the first song is the first band is called Organectomy, who I hadn't really heard of, but it's so easy now for certain bands to sneak by you. I saw they were on Slam Worldwide. I do listen to most of the stuff that I hear on Slam Worldwide, especially when it's single songs. So that should tell you that their album, Domain of the Wretched, and their song Terraform is that kind of death metal that it can be categorized as slam metal. And I really in the mood because the slams felt really good. The video looked fun as hell. Recorded, from their live shows. The information said it was recorded from their live shows with cattle decapitation in New Zealand. So that's awesome, The song got me real excited. It's slam metal, so you sort of get what you expect. The growls weren't super guttural, so it's not that super extreme sounding one, but there were definitely some good slams in there. And I really can't remember a solo, so I think it was just that brutal death metal. So that's getting a thumbs up for me. I'll definitely listen to that song. We'll see. Now that I'm telling you I'm listening to all these songs during the weekend, but there's a death metal fest. I'll be listening to mostly to that. So a lot of these that I'm giving a go to put on a listen playlist, I'll be doing it while I'm working, not this weekend. But Organectomy gets that thumbs up. It was a good time. It might be one of them that I go back to, one of these albums I go back to for those when I particularly feel like dank slams, as the column on Metal Injection is called. So that one got a thumbs up. And then in contrast is a band called Skinless, who released a few albums. I don't know why they slipped by me. I can't remember ever really listening to them. I remember seeing them a lot. This is going to sound super stupid and just real shallow, but I think maybe, on Relapse when they've released stuff, or when they've, been support on a tour or whatever, I think maybe I thought they were Skindred, and it was easy for me just to shrug it off without really thinking about it. And Skindred, of course, is a 14th wave nu metal band who I can't remember one song. I think I have like demos, that someone hands me when I leave concerts in 2002 or something like that. And I don't think I hated Skindred, by the way. I'm not like trying to put down nu metal or anything like that. But I think it was I think maybe in the back of my head I may have just let them float on by. But that's why we listen to new music in this cult of the new that we're all in. And this song was fucking cool. It was just a good death metal song. It's this song called Savagery from their album called Savagery sort of showed the difference between the slams I heard on the Organectomy song, Terraform, versus this Skinless song, Savagery. However, just listening to some other stuff and then reading the little thing on the video, Savagery is filled with also slams and grooves and whatnot. So I am actually very curious to hear him, and I may even jump the gun and listen to an earlier album instead of waiting for this one today, just really so I can see the full breadth of the band, because it seems like they might be a little bit underrated. And you name the band Skinless, which is a very metal sounding name, but it's not like Skinless Decapitation of Horror. I don't know. I don't know what to fucking say. Anyway, the song was cool. It was a good contrast in the two death metals, listening to Organectomy, then Skinless. even though, they can only be so different. And I'm excited to listen to them for sure. They are on the list of things to listen to on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or, obviously this list is long and it doesn't even include hip-hop or indie or other random bullshit that gets on my radar already. So it's already like 6 albums, right? So anyway, that is the Metal Primer for May 11th, 2018. This is the Propaganda Show. My name is Chris Sarda. You can find me at Chris Sarda on Twitter, and you can find this posted along with other stuff whenever I can, other stuff about music and movies and bullshit like that on notpartofyourscene.com. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.